In addition to identifying the grantor, a deed needs to clearly identify the grantee, the party receiving title to real estate, such as a buyer. As previously mentioned, anybody may take and hold title to real estate as the grantee. The identity of the grantee needs to be sufficient to identify with certainty the individual to whom the seller intends title to be passed. Additionally, a deed is considered valid if the individual identified as a grantee takes title under a fictitious name, by which they are also known, or have assumed for the purpose of receiving title. However, if the fictitious name is established for the purpose of committing a fraud against the grantor may set aside the deed as voidable. But what happens in the instance of an unintentional error? Well, sometimes the seller inadvertently misnames the grantee in the recorded deed, such as by misspelling their name. A deed with a misnamed grantee that is intended to convey title is still a valid conveyance of the real estate. That's right, it's still a valid conveyance. Now, let's get into the mechanics a bit. Another deed from the same grantor to the grantee, named with the correct spelling of the grantee's name, will not correct the error. Why? Well, since the grantor no longer has any interest to convey, the recording of a corrective deed falls outside the chain of title. Simply, the grantor has already conveyed their title, although to a grantee with an erroneously spelled name. To be clear, title companies are only concerned the grantor on a deed is the same person who took title under the incorrect name. Thus, when it comes time for the grantee to sell the property, thereby becoming the grantor, title companies will generally accept a deed conveying title which identifies the grantor both by their correct name and the incorrect misspelled name under which they originally took title as a grantee. Alternatively, the buyer, the grantee, may petition a court to establish the identity of a seller, the grantor, when a discrepancy with the seller's name exists in the chain of title.